Hey everyone, just a quick welcome. We're going to get started in about a minute or two. My name is John from Deluxe, and my subject matter expert is Andrew Eisenberg joining us today as well. And I really appreciate everyone signing on. They're coming in rapidly, so literally maybe 30 seconds after the top of the hour we will start. But just want to say welcome. Thank you for joining us. Okay, an official welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is John from Deluxe, and Andrew Eisenberg is our subject matter expert today, learning some things that I never even knew about. So if you guys know me, we have Deluxe customers on the phone, we have some title reps, we have some mortgage folks. Again, appreciate all these wonderful independent contractors, you entrepreneurs spending some time with us today. Just a kind of a highlight of Deluxe that I've learned in my 1 year now with Deluxe is that we are a trusted company. We have 4.8 million small businesses. And I know mortgage guys, title reps, real estate folks, you all are running your own small business. And I had no idea of the advantages that this company that we have, my corporation, can help with. So, of course, not being the expert, I have to bring on that expert, Andrew Eisberg. Thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone's very excited about this. I've gotten texts this morning. I've got some messages last night. We're really excited to learn about this. So I will go off camera here and thank you very much, Andrew. Look forward to it.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Everyone, depending on where you're in the country, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Andrew Eismer, as John mentioned. Very, very thankful for your time this afternoon. I do promise it's a half-hour session. We're going to keep it within a half hour to get you back to your busy schedule. But you came here today to learn a little bit about the benefits of business formations for agents and brokers. And we'll talk about what that means, why it's beneficial, why it's important, some stuff that maybe you didn't even know about you could do for yourself as a real estate agent, as a real estate broker, things that either from a federal, state, or IRS level that give you some terrific advantages to be able to help you on your day-to-day, will save a little bit on your taxes, so on and so forth. So thank you so much for joining us here today. If you do have any questions as we go through the next 28 minutes, there's a chat function within the webinar here. I encourage you guys, leverage it as much as possible. We will have time at the end of the session to answer questions. After the session is over, it is being recorded. I will get the recording out to all of you guys, as well as a couple of other beneficial links that we'll go through here. If you want to answer any scenarios or go through any questions that we might touch on one-on-one, certainly happy to do that as well if you don't want to do it in a public forum. So that function is available as well, but there is a chat function here so that if we're on a slide and you don't want to wait until the end to make sure that your question gets remembered, leverage the chat function and we will address it when we get to the end. So a little bit about me. I mentioned my name is Andrew Eisenberg. I am the business development manager here at Deluxe, overseeing our My Corporation program. You'll hear me touch on the word My Corporation quite a bit over the next 25 minutes or so. I've been at Deluxe for just over 10 years now. I started in a number of different capacities, overseeing a couple of different business divisions within our major accounts division, and now I have the opportunity to take over our My Corporation division. And I'm based out of Minneapolis here, depending on where you're at in the country. I mentioned good afternoon, good morning. That is a picture of my family and our Christmas card from a few weeks ago. So a belated happy holidays and happy new year to all of you out there. In terms of My Corporation, about who we are the business registration filing division of Deluxe. I mentioned I oversee our new BD category for this division of Deluxe. My Corp, we've been doing this for 25 plus years. Our office is actually located just outside of Los Angeles. And when Deluxe had the opportunity to look at adding another service to our portfolio, you think about some of the things that you know that we do at Deluxe. Business registration services for small business owners, for independent contractors, for real estate agents is a really important thing. It's something that is complex. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of different people that might get involved with the process. I think a lot of people associate this type of work with an accountant, with an attorney, with a local advisor. We do this at a national level. We cover all 50 states plus Canada in multiple languages. And we help small businesses and independent contractors and agents take so much homework off of their own plate by saying, hey, you know what? It's a complex process. We know that. We appreciate that. You're trying to run your day-to-day, grow your bottom line. Let us take care of this amount of work off of your plate. And we've been able to do that with over 1 million businesses over the past 25 plus years. And you see that our 5-star Google rating there on the bottom right-hand side, it is something that we certainly stand by and we're certainly very proud of. So that's a little bit about who I am, about who my corporation is, and what we do here at Deluxe within our larger ecosystem. You guys came here today to learn a little bit about business registrations. Why is this important? Why is this something that you guys should care about? Why is it something that maybe you haven't learned about to this point? And the important thing when we go through a lot of this content is that it is information that a lot of people just frankly don't know. Statistic that really alarms me because of how much I see it benefits people is that 85% of agents and brokers start out as sole proprietors. And you think about the sole proprietor who just starts out as an agent, and you might have come from a corporate position. In 2020, we were all hit so hard with the small business community and everyone trying to just kind of pick up the pieces. We've seen so many people go from a corporate position into what was maybe a side hustle. Maybe you're an agent that spent 15 hours a week to try to supplement some income and just, it's just a passion of yours. And you just started out as an agent and you default as a sole proprietor. It's how so many of the businesses in the United States, 30 million, depending on where we're at in the year, end up under this entity status. And why that's important for you, we're going to touch on. There's a number of reasons that this is important for you guys to be aware of. And there are a couple different options for you guys to choose from. And when we go through what a sole proprietor is, which is many of you are going to be today, whether you know it or not, and what the benefits are. And you talk about getting into stuff like an LLC. That's a word a lot of you guys probably have heard of before, limited liability company. An S Corp, it's a tax election and entity type that is available through the IRS that's really going to benefit you. Liability protection, things that are important to you. Why is this something that you need to think about? Well, it's really important. You think about liability protection in terms of the stuff that you take on every day, just operating as one of those 85% of sole proprietors that are in the United States that make up the majority of what we do today. You think about liability protection. What is that? What does that mean to me? The way you operate today, let's assume everybody on the call is a sole proprietor. This is someone that when you're going to work, you're using your own personal name. When you file your taxes at the end of the year, you file them under your personal taxes. Hopefully that hits home for a lot of you. What is liability protection? How does that affect me? Liability protection as a sole proprietor includes everything from your house, your cars, and your bank accounts. So think about that as everything that you own under your own umbrella is what you are personally liable for as a sole proprietor, the way that you are operating right now as a real estate agent. Just something to be aware of, that let's say anything were to happen, and we'll touch a little bit about possibilities a little bit later in these slides for scenarios that are very common when it comes to agents and brokers that might overlap with your liability and what clients are going to hold you personally liable for and why this is important. So we look at what is a sole proprietor versus a limited liability company, protections that many S Corps get as well. To differentiate the two, a sole proprietor, a single person, just like you are today, unlimited personal liability, what we just touched on. What is liability protection? Unlimited personal liability, and then your taxes are paid and filed through your personal taxes. You get a 1099 at the end of the year as an independent contractor. That's what a sole proprietor is. Hopefully this sounds very common to many of you guys who are on the phone right now or on your computers. That, okay, yeah, that's what I do. You would be considered a sole proprietor. Many people just don't associate it with that term. An LLC, a limited liability company, probably a term that you guys have certainly heard thrown around. It's very common now. is also can be an individual person, can also be a handful of people as well who represent the same company, who are not personally liable for the debts of their business. These are people who have created a separation of their assets, meaning they have business assets and you have personal assets, just like you have business expenses and personal expenses as an agent. It's certainly something that you guys are going to be very, very familiar with. And then as far as taxes go, you have the option of paying taxes through a couple of different ways. You can either pass them through the business, or you can be taxed just like you would as a sole proprietor. As we talk about a lot of the benefits of going through this process over the next 15, 20 minutes, we are going to show you how much money you can save yourself by opting into one of these elections versus what you're doing today. And it is substantial, and it is something that hopefully by the end of the session, you're thinking to yourself, wow, I had no idea I'm doing this, I'm paying this much, versus what I could potentially be saving myself is very substantial. And we'll talk about what that looks like and how do we take those next steps. We touched on liability protection on the previous slide, things that you're personally liable for, your house, your cars, your savings accounts. You're thinking, well, Andrew, I don't even understand. Like, what do you mean? How am I gonna be liable for anything? What's gonna happen to me as an agent or broker? Well, here's your common ways that agents and brokers get sued today. This is as of 2020. Certainly things that are going to hit home for a lot of you guys, things that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. Failing to disclose property defects. Giving legal advice is such a big one that comes up not only within real estate, but in so many different industry types, because providing advice to your consumers, your clients, and if that advice is not correct or it misleads them in another direction, which number 4 hits on, they're going to hold you liable. They're going to take you to court. And if you are that sole proprietor from that previous slide where you're paying taxes out of your own taxes with a 1099, you're personally liable for the debts of whatever happens to your business. 20 million lawsuits a year in the United States happen within this market. It is substantial. You are one of the people that you look at these 7 things on here that you could personally be held liable for and get legal action brought against you and your company. It is really substantial. So without diving too deep into this, this is just meant to show you, wow, I have an opportunity to transition to get my business registered that protects me from being involved with any sort of legal action brought against my business. So if I were to get sued because one of these 7 things happened or anything else, if you're an LLC, you're an S Corp, you form your business, it gets registered through the state and then through the IRS ultimately. You separate your assets so that your house, your cards, your savings accounts, they're not accessible with any legal action. You protect them by creating that separation in a very, very, very affordable manner. And we can touch a little bit about that. But just something that is important when we talk about liability protection, when we talk about why it's important to register your business, not to be confused with business insurance or just because you're a part of a larger company that you're protected. It's a very common misconception, and it's incorrect. The bigger thing that's probably going to hit home for you guys is tax savings. How much money are you saving? We go through this. What is the biggest benefit for me right away? How much money can I ultimately save? How much money am I forfeiting right now? Taxes. This is a big thing for you guys, because independent contractors in the United States pay a ton on taxes, and it is something that is avoidable. It's something that there's a solution for, and it's something that a lot of people just aren't aware of. Right now, what happens is, as a independent sole proprietor, you're paying a combination of taxes: income tax plus self-employment tax. Now, what does that mean? So you take your income tax, your gross commission income, right? Deduct your write-off expenses, right? So your car you can write off as an agent, any advertising expenses, everything else that you can write off as an expense of the business. Then you get your bottom line. That's your GCI, okay? You get taxed on that, depending on which state you live in, of course. Also, you get taxed on self-employment tax. This is 15.3%. It pays for Social Security and Medicare. It's something that is not something you can control in terms of paying for this. If you were a former employee of a larger company who, let's say Deluxe for my instance, right now when I look at my pay stub, I get a W-2 from Deluxe every single year. And when I look at my paycheck, I'm paying 7.65% roughly in employment tax. It's not something you can control. It's something you might roll your eyes at, but it's part of the process. As a self-employee, what you're doing is you're having to pay double that because you're paying the 7.5+%. As an employee, you're also having to cover that as the employer, as a self-employed person, not something that your parent company that you represent the brand of covers for you. So it's something that you are paying a substantial amount in. It's important. Great news. Awesome news because of what's available to you guys. Establishing yourself as an agent / broker as an S Corp. What does that mean? An S Corp is a tax election, essentially, as an entity type that allows you to avoid double taxation. So that's great. Rather than having to pay the 15.3%, you're able to save yourself thousands and thousands of dollars every single year. And I mean thousands and thousands of dollars every single year. To illustrate that point, we've created at my corporation a tax calculator. Hopefully, it's very easy to use for you guys. I will get you the link after we get off the webinar here, as well as the recording for this session. But I'll show you a little bit about just how easy it is to show how much money you can save yourself as an agent and broker. Hopefully you guys can see my screen here. This is our My Corporation website. This is our CEO, Deborah Sweeney. Here's our tool, S Corp Tax Savings Calculator. So let's use a couple proxy numbers, not trying to overcomplicate this, make them kind of round and pretty simple. You see here we have a sole proprietor option and an S Corp option if you were to form. So let's say we use $81,000 as our net income. Remember we talked about GCI at the end of the day. We net out at $81,000. Right now, as a sole proprietor, many of you guys, that 85% of the agent broker base, are paying $11,500 in self-employment taxes. To take that's just half of the taxes that you have to pay ultimately. But $11,500 in the self-employment taxes is what you're paying today. By electing and filing as an S Corp, which is a very, very quick, easy, painless process. What you do is you pay yourself a salary that is considered, in quotations, reasonable as predetermined by the IRS. There are a lot of different kind of stipulations that go into this in terms of depending how many hours a week you actually work as a realtor. Is it your full-time job, depending on where you're at in the country, stuff like that, that will predetermine what that reasonable is. It's going to be anywhere between about $38,000 and then $50,000, depending on what your commitment level is. What's meant to be illustrated here is, let's say your net income is the $81,000. You pay yourself a salary of $47,000 and change. Round numbers, you can play the rotating scale up here to match your individual level for where you're at. You're going to pay $7,000 in change at a $47,500 salary. And you don't have to pay taxes and get double tax on the rest. So you are going to save yourself every single year $4,100. And that's with these numbers. Let's say you pay yourself a salary of $37,500. You're going to save yourself $5,700 every single year. If you're an agent for 10 years, that's $57,000 you've just saved yourself on your taxes over the course of the 10 years of operating as an agent when you file your taxes. It is incredibly substantial. It is such a beneficial thing to do as an agent, and it's something that allows you to not only create that separation of your assets, you can do that, but allows you to save so much money when you file your taxes by going through this process. I know what, when talking with my own personal real estate agent, he told me that first 6 years of his career, he's a RE/MAX agent, he operated as a sole proprietor. He didn't know any better. And then in his 7th year, he speaking with his accountant, and his accountant kind of kicked him in the butt and said, you need to go and do this because you are forfeiting so much money by operating this way. And the first year he did it, he told me the amount of money that he saved, which I'm like, it kind of blew me away. And like, holy cow, why weren't you doing this earlier? You should go through this process. But this was prior to myself being involved with my corporation team and overseeing this new area. I didn't know. I was naive about it. And then now when we kind of learned a little bit more, holy cow, the amount of money you save yourself as an agent is so substantial by going through this really quick, painless process. And that's where my corporation comes in. So again, I'm going to get this calculator, the scaling tool out to you guys once we get off the call here, as well as the recording for this session. So you can play around, you can learn a little bit more about what is an S Corp, why choose it, what are the benefits, stuff like that. And then if you want to go through the process, easy. You want to save yourself $5,700 a year, click right here on the button right under the tool. Couldn't make it any more simple. But that's how much money, depending on what predetermined salary you're going to pay a year, because you're not going to get double taxed anymore on those dollars. So it is incredibly substantial. So great news. We have a solution as an agent, as a broker. No longer do we have to pay so much on that 15.3% self-employment tax. We can save ourselves a ton of money. Hopefully that hits home. Hopefully that makes a ton of sense. And combine that with the liability protection you create for yourself as an agent broker by going through this process. Such a no-brainer, such an affordable process. I mean, you're talking all in less than a couple $100, depending on where you're at in the country. If you go through an attorney, an accountant, always, if you have specific questions as it pertains to legal or actual specific tax as it pertains to your individual situation, go talk to an accountant. I would encourage you to do so. They're going to tell you very similar things that we just have gone through today in terms of how much money you can potentially save yourself in that liability protection. But the great news is we do have a solution through our My Corporation team here at Deluxe. If you want to take action, if you want to go through this process, or you're curious and learning more, you're interested, you're an attorney or you're an agent in Wisconsin or Florida or California, and you want to know how this applies to you as an individual, contact our team. This is what we are specialized in. We are consultants as an organization and meant to be here to answer your questions and to help you get any of your documentation filed. I mentioned my team specializes in handling filings for small business owners and independent contractors. So that means that if you have any filing need or you're just generally curious about learning more, great. Contact our team. We'd love to have a conversation with you. We'd love to help you. If you ultimately do want to file as an S Corp or you want to just be an LLC, by the way, you can actually do both. You can be an LLC and elect a tax corp, elect an S Corp for your tax election. We'll take care of all that for you. It doesn't matter what state you live in, or if you need a bilingual speaking rep, we can help you out with anything that you need. That URL there on the bottom left is that landing page you'll see there where you can just enter your basic information to have one of our experts reach out to you. Otherwise, if you just want to call us directly, that's our phone number there on the right-hand side. I mentioned I will get this out to you post-webinar so that you guys have all the materials to take back to your offices. But if you want to take action right now today, I would encourage you to do so. And if you have any questions about how much money can this save me as an individual, I want to play around with that scale, that's going to come out to you as well. But hopefully that makes a ton of sense to you in terms of why it's important, how much money you can save. It's a no-brainer process to go through. And it's just something that a lot of people just, you're kind of unaware of when you go through and get your license because you default into that initial sole proprietorship, which is why so many people start there. But just good information to know that there is an alternative solution that can benefit you in a number of different ways that hopefully makes some sense. I know it's pretty high level and we've gone over it pretty quick here this afternoon, but I certainly hope that you've been able to take at least some information back to your office and any of your coworkers that will be beneficial to you, and certainly as we get into tax season this year and moving forward. So at this time, I will open up for questions and see if we have anything in the chat function. Otherwise, we can just open the phones, and if anyone has questions over the phone, I would encourage that as well. Otherwise, as I email you when we get off the call here, if you want to talk about any one-on-one scenarios, I'd be happy to do that as well. And I will leave this screen up for anyone who would like to either write it down or just go to it directly. So we can open up the phone lines now if anyone has any questions.
Andrew, that was very, very well done. And this is kind of new for the audience getting understanding all this. It's new for me, as I kind of shared in the beginning. I'm just blown away by some of the stuff that I wasn't aware of that we can really help with. So I'm sure you shed a lot of light for these folks, and I'm sure there's going to be some questions. And as Andrew mentioned, the phone number's right there. You got the form you can fill out, and someone will reach out directly. I love that process, by the way. It makes it simple for the folks that are on the webinar. So, but yeah, we don't have any. No questions are in the chat, so I guess you did it very succinctly, and folks know what they need to know. But I really appreciate it, Andrew. Thank you.
Absolutely. And if anyone does have any questions, we'll be happy to deal with one-on-one after the webinar. So thank you so much, John, for everything and for all the participants today.